This episode of the School Zone podcast is brought to you by School Spirit Vending, hassle-free year-round fundraising for your school. At School Spirit Vending, we do all the work. You cash the check.
Welcome to the School Zone podcast, your source for the most creative and innovative ways to school fundraise and impact your kids. Now, here's your host, Matt Miller.
Hey, School Zone podcast listeners. Matt coming at you from Stephenville, Texas. I am excited to have John Howe on from the Fort Collins, Colorado area. Today, John's a full-time grad student at Colorado State University in Education Sciences with an emphasis in STEM education. He's the founder and director of STEM Summer Institutes. John has also been an administrator for a number of years. In fact, was recognized as a smart exemplary educator by the Fort Collins Rotary Club, as the Paul Harris Fellow for his dedication and commitment to furthering STEM education, was the Colorado Aerospace Education Teacher of the Year for the Civil Air Patrol, and received the Federal Aviation Administration COWY Award. He was the NASSP Assistant Principal of the Year for Wyoming. Was presented at local, state, national, and international levels on STEM education. And so anyway, I wanted to have John on. We've talked in a previous episode a little bit about STEM and his involvement there. But because of his background as an administrator and as an educator, I wanted just to have a short conversation with him on the fundraising aspect and what schools are confronted with today. And as an administrator, what are some of the things that he looks at and considers, so that those of you that are out there can share experiences potentially, and for those companies out there that might be listening that are kind of in that space, you might gain some valuable insights as to what we might work on or improve on, or what new programs we might bring to the market to help educators like John do what they do more effectively and efficiently, and fundraise better. So John, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
So give us a little background from the administrator and educator perspective, career-wise, and then let's jump right into the fundraising stuff.
Yeah, so I'm a grad student now, and I'm excited to get to study what I'm really, really passionate about. That comes after 35 years in public schools, K-12. Most of that at junior high and middle school, but I did 8 years at high school. I've been a teacher, assistant principal, associate principal, head principal. I could bring some experience, and that's in about 4 different schools in Wyoming and Colorado.
So talk a little bit about the aspect, the fundraising side of things. I know it's a necessary evil that we really don't like to deal with in a lot of cases, just because the focus, is on educating the kids, which is where it should be. But the reality is that funds do need to be raised, because budgets oftentimes aren't adequate to handle all the needs that a school or a district has. So talk a little bit about that from your perspective over the years.
Yeah. So I've been involved in, I've been responsible for our fundraiser here in this building for 16 years. One decision that was made before I got here was that the school would limit fundraising to one big event every year. And in our case, we sold a product. Students sold a product to the community that was of value to the community. And then those monies, once we paid our bills, then those monies were distributed to teachers in the form of mini grants. There were some rules associated with that, and so that eliminated a lot of one of the problems with fundraising in K-12, and that is the parents, every time they turn around, somebody's asking them to spend money on something or give money to something. And so this community kind of said, let's do one big thing each year, and let's not not overwhelm our parents with requests. Because no matter how you look at it, so many of the products that we sell can be purchased at a lower price in another market or online or whatever. But people do it because they want to support schools. So people have the best interest in mind, and so that's kind of how we approached it. I've done a lot of things. Back in the day, vending machines were a real good source of fundraising, and then we started to look at the impact that sugar has on our kids, and that's evolved into something different now. But yeah, I've been involved in a lot of fundraising in my 35 years.
So what's some of the stuff that you've done, and maybe what are some of the things that you got excited about in that space, maybe some of the things that turned you off along the way, that turned you away from certain companies or products as time went on?
Well, what we've done, and again, this is a decision made before I got here, and that is that at the middle school we sell magazines. Now there's some great vendors out there. We've settled on one in our area, and what I really like about it is it's all predictable. We sign a contract. I don't have to make any decisions. I don't have to bring proposals to a board. I can just make the decision. So I like that. I like having the ability to go ahead and commit to a course of action because I have experience with them. Having a relationship with the vendor is important, I think. Taking time. What I don't have time for is hearing a lot of proposals. I just don't have time. I don't have time to read the dozens of emails that I get from potential vendors. Once I've made the decision, I just don't have time to take away from my work to kind of process them all. One thing that I've noticed over the years is in order to get the job, there's sometimes promises made that can't be kept. And then there's just that awkward explanation later of why it didn't come together the way that we thought it would. And there's guarantees of income and so forth. And really, honestly, I'm just happy to have something that's predictable and comfortable. So the other thing that we've also evolved into is low impact. With our sale now, what I've asked our company to do is to do a lot of the jobs that we had to go out and find volunteers for. I would spend hours and hours trying to coordinate, and then if I didn't, then it was a parent volunteer trying to coordinate all that stuff. And a magazine sale is a big deal. You know, it takes a lot of time to get it put together, collect the magazines. But that has evolved over time to the vendor doing a lot of those kind of jobs. So it's the impact to the teachers, to education, to our time is way down, and that's an important component to it too. Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, that's extremely helpful. Now you talked about relationship. Being as busy as you are, what does that mean to you? I came from the advertising space before I started working in the school fundraising space, and everybody's definition of that is kind of different. So from your perspective, how does that kind of occur? What works for you? Once again, because of how busy you are. Because let's face it, some of these folks can be pretty aggressive or persistent, mm-hmm. and we all know there's a line there. So in your mind, where does that line kind of get crossed? And what has the company done that you're working with now and that you're comfortable with to develop that relationship with you over the years? Is it just purely by doing what they said they were going to do and then executing, or is there more to that?
Yeah, first of all, there's timing, right? For many of us, we're super busy during the school year. So an initial contact during the school year is often hard. And I want to be gracious with folks that want to meet. And I also need to be cognizant. I need to get my job done. And my job is people here. So that's a great question. How did the relationship evolve? I think first of all, timing, making sure that The initial contact was at a time that wasn't super busy. I was open to the contact. At that point, we looked at 2 or 3 companies. And once we developed that initial relationship, then we just, it just became comfortable. And so we try to have a meal together, before school starts in August. That's helpful because it's not super busy then. In a wrap up after school's out in June. And so, so that, you kind of, once you get used to it and you're happy with the contract, then you just keep doing that. And then at that point, I just kind of, I maintain with that relationship. Now, once I go, then, that's somebody else's deal.
Right.
They have to be as comfortable.
Most teachers and administrators not only want their kids to have developed minds, but opportunities to develop creativity, positive human values, and a sense of personal excellence. But your budget doesn't allow for all of it. You need fundraising. At School Spirit Vending, we are helping a growing number of elementary schools fundraise the easy way, and we do all the work. We provide the sticker vending machine, free customized school logo stickers, licensed and non-licensed stickers like NFL and Disney, as well as tons of other fun stickers that are relevant to kids. The best part? School Spirit Vending is free. No upfront expenses for schools at all. A percentage of machine revenue goes directly to the school, PTA, or PTO each month. And did I say customized stickers? Our skilled graphics team can help custom design your school spirit stickers. You just tell us what you want. The only thing you do is provide us a busy hallway or commons area. Oh, and you'll have to find the time to cash a monthly check. It doesn't get any easier than that. 2,000 elementary schools can't be wrong. To see for yourself how easy year-round, hassle-free fundraising can be, go to schoolspiritvending.com/schoolzone. You've been listening to the School Zone podcast, your source for the most creative and innovative ways to school fundraise and impact your kids. Now, back to Matt.
Awesome. So are there any bits of advice then that you would give to companies that are potentially looking to reach out to other administrators out there? You've talked about the relationship being the key. You've talked about the fact that you really need to follow through with the promises that you make and be predictable. We've talked about the fact that, having a program that provides or that causes less impact to you and your volunteers and your faculty, with, the company stepping in and taking on a lot of that responsibility. And then you've also talked about timing. Anything else that you can think of that might be beneficial?
Yeah, if it's food, it needs to be healthy. If it's a food item, there's that kind of that tightrope walk around the healthfulness of an item. And so if it's a food item, it needs to be to meet the needs of dietary requirements in a particular area. We all eat differently in different places. The product needs to have value. What I would hate is if our parents just bought something that they didn't value enough, but they did it just to be nice. I'd much rather have them be happy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I use the word efficient. I think you might have mentioned that too, that the time spent on it in return is high. There's probably a term for that, but the ROI is return on investment is high with time, turning into money. And so those are the pieces I don't think we mentioned. Healthy, high value product, efficient.
So there's a lot of different ways that people can reach out to, the volunteers or whatever. There's trade shows, there's mail, there's email, there's attempting to sit down and have one-on-one, meetings, that type of thing. What is your preference? Yeah, obviously you can't speak for everybody out there, but what have you found has been most effective for you, has been most respectful of you and your time and your busy schedule?
I really do like the trade shows. So going to a trade show, an initial contact with a postcard saying, hey, I'm in booth so-and-so. Now that sort of works for me, because then I can filter it before I even take any time to do it. I also know that that's super expensive for the vendor, and not everybody can afford to do that, and they might have a great product out there. My second would probably be direct mail to the school. Now, we get a lot of junk mail, but that gives me a chance to look at it and see if I'm interested in it. My third choice would be email. And again, just knowing that we get hundreds of emails a day, more than that sometimes. And sometimes the filter, it's just, I mean, you know marketing way better than I do and advertising way better than I do. And you just know that there's a percentage, right? There's probably a number out there, 25% of them get emailed, get read, or less or more, I don't know. And my last would be personal contact. Mine would be personal contact. That's just me. Just because a sit-down meeting is going to be 30 to 60 minutes, usually.
Well, outstanding. Well, John, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're right smack dab in the middle of your STEM institutes this summer, and so you got a lot going on there. But I appreciate you being willing to share some insights from your perspective, because, very few in the industry come from your perspective, and all we have is ours. So the ability to hear from you and kind of, what you guys have done, how you've handled things, and some of the things that have maybe been turn-offs along the way, and some of the things that people have been doing well, I think is very, very, very valuable information that I hope listeners will take to heart as we all try to do what we do, right? For you guys to educate the kids as best as you can and raise the money that is necessary to provide for the needs of the schools and for those companies out there that are looking to make a living and to provide something of value as well, and to be able to do what they do. Let me ask you one question real quick before we hop off. You talked about the mini grants within your school. So kind of how does that work? I'm intrigued to hear how that money then ends up being divvied up. I assume they apply for certain amounts of money? Is it project based, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, this was in place before I got here, but what our parent organization did was they did the footwork for the fundraiser. So they did a lot of the things that that needed doing, like stuffing catalogs and organizing the handouts and all that kind of stuff. So they in turn then formed a committee after each. Once the accounting was done, then they had their group. Let's say 15,000. I think that's a reasonable 15, 20 to 25,000 in this building, and then they put out a request for proposals to the teachers, and they had, you can buy this, but you can't buy this. You can't buy supplies. You can't buy travel. It's got to be around kids and kids' needs and learning. We want it to be durable, so we buy hardware. We'll buy books. We'll buy electronics. One time we did a computer lab. We supplemented a computer lab. One year we bought a large format printer, a 36-inch printer. So that money, they would look and they say, well, we're going to spend, $1,000 on this project and $25 on this project and $10,000 on this project. They got to make those decisions, and then they deposited the money, and teachers had to draw on that. They had to do exactly what they proposed. And it's been kind of fun over the years.
So what happens if they have some other needs, that aren't more durable? I know, I'll give you a great example, and you guys may not deal with this. This might just be a situation in the district where I was talking, but I was at a principal's event up in Grand Rapids, Michigan here last December, and was talking with them about our program. And I asked the principal, I said, so what would you use the money for? And she said, lice kits. And I said, say again? She said, lice kits. She said, all the money that the district is being given right now is going towards technology. She said, and that's great. The challenge is that it's earmarked for that and can only be used for that from the donors who are giving it. And in the process, there's a lot of other needs that are being ignored or that are not budgetary line items anymore. So do you see that a whole lot in your neck of the woods? And if so, how do you guys handle that type of thing?
Well, Colorado is, I would say, funds its schools pretty well. And that would be a medical necessity. And in our school, we would take it out of the building budget when we have that kind of problem, because we have to say that kind of stuff that goes on. Maybe not as much, but we do have, we got the same problems as everybody else. So in funding for stuff like that, those are essentials, and what we've always done in any district I've worked in, we would pay for that out of the building budget.
Gotcha. Well, John Howe, thank you very much for your time. I've learned a ton today, and I trust the School Zone audience has done so as well. It was great getting a chance to know you a little bit, and make sure you keep my sister busy the next week and a half or so.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity to blab. I probably talked too much.
No, John, I love it. Thanks for taking the time. Seriously, it's been great, and it's been a real value to me, and I know will be to the audience as well.
Very cool.
All right, take care, and God bless.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would be honored if you would leave a 5-star rating and review and hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice.
Are you an educator, administrator, or school volunteer looking for a simpler way to raise money for your school? Let School Spirit Vending put their hassle-free year-round fundraising program to work for you. School Spirit Vending. We do all the work. You cash the check. Go to schoolspiritvending.com/schoolzone for all the details.